Well, hey there. Here is a bonus review. So, the way I'm doing the bonus reviews is basically these are the audiobooks. I'm constantly, if I'm not listening to a podcast, then I want to listen to a book. And right now, Steven Pressfield has a new book out that he is making the podcast circuit. And apparently, the podcasts that I listen to all have the same authors on them because now I think I've heard Steven Pressfield promoting his latest book for at least two, maybe three different podcasts, which is, gosh, I can't remember the name of his latest book. Hopefully, I'll think of it through the end of this review. But if not, the thing that I realized when I was listening to Pressfield on on Tim Ferriss's podcast, where he was interviewing him about his new book, A Man at Arms. There you go, A Man at Arms. That's his new book, which I will be grabbing and reading. I don't know if I'll put it in the 52 books of the Vitruvian reading list for the year, but so I don't know if I'll have a review on it. But either way, I do plan to read the book. So I had completely forgotten that one, he was also the author of the War of Art, and secondly, I had forgotten that I had actually bought it in my Audible account, and so I turned it on the other day, and I am so glad that I did. I want to go back and buy the actual hard copy of it just to have as a reference because this is a phenomenal book for anyone out there trying to start a business, in particular, if you are a creative, if you're an artist, a writer, whatever the case may be, this is a must read, but don't just read once. It's a great reference book. Here's what I love about Steven Pressfield. He's a guy that did not have a lot of early success. It took him something like 20 years of going at it. And what he talks about in the book is how he basically arranged his life so that he could be an artist. An example, he's never had children. Does he regret that? He looks back now and thinks, yeah, maybe, but that was the price he was willing to pay to be a writer full time. That's his job, that's his vocation. And that's one of the things that really comes through in this book is that if you are really serious about being a creative, which I am, I'm actually I am a writer. I have had a couple of books published, but my ultimate goal is to really be a prolific writer and make my full-time living writing, speaking, and sharing stories. That's what I want to do. So if you are someone who is also a creative and you're wanting to get started, you know how freaking frustrating it can be. I mean, the fact is, look, it's not a real job. It's something that seemingly, we hear the great stories of J.K. Rowling and how, she went from homeless to all of a sudden a billionaire for writing the Harry Potter series. We hear that and we think, well, yeah, she was homeless. She had nothing to lose. What about my wife and my two kids and college and my real job? It's tough. Or go try to tell your parents, like Stephen Pressfield, whenever he told his father, I think he started out something like in engineering, and then he went to his father and said he wanted to be an English major. Now Pressfield's of a generation where it was really frowned upon to say, "Hey, Dad, I want to be an actor or actress or writer." That basically meant I don't want to have a real job. And so he really expressed some balls at that time, saying, "Dad, this is what I want to do." And so he talks about that, having that whole burn your ships mindset, how important that is to becoming a full time creative. And he also mentions a lot an entrepreneur, because those of you who, like me as well, are entrepreneurs, you know that stepping out on your own and taking that leap of faith, it can be a very, very big challenge. The biggest takeaway that I took from it was a couple of things. One, listening to somebody who has had incredible success. The Legend of Bagger Vance, that's Stephen Pressfield. He wrote the novel, they made the movie, wildly successful. Gates of Fire, the book that would eventually inspire the movie 300 about the Spartans and the Battle of Thermopylae. I mean, it's just it's a classic, and that's one of the things he's known for, is that he writes these really cool historical fiction books. His writing style is amazing, but it wasn't always the case. It took him a long, long time. He was a taxi cab driver, had all sorts of just random jobs trying to get by, but never lost sight of the fact that he wanted to be an author and a writer. He did some screenwriting out in Hollywood. He failed miserably. He used to write in his car. So it was good for me as someone who wakes up sometimes, and whenever I don't want to sit at the computer and I don't want to write, it's good to hear that, you know what, I'm not the only one. In fact, this is the process. And then he talks about resistance and the battle between resistance and your ego and the muse and all of it coming together and fighting resistance, fighting through the resistance and using the resistance for your favor. And I can tell you, I mean, it's almost like, and again, those of you who are out there and you know who you are, that you actually want to do something creative and you're not doing it, you know that a lot of the reason why you're not doing it is because resistance. We will find any way. We will put all these things in place of sitting down at the computer and actually writing. And so that's what Pressfield really does a great job of accounting for and saying that, a lot of times, like, here's a great example. This is what gave me some freedom. Hearing someone that was as successful as him say this. He got to the point where he would pull out his typewriter, he would sit down and he would write. And to this day, actually, he sits down every day, same routine, about 10 o'clock, from 10 to 3, I think is his hour. He has a little ritual he goes through. He puts on the same hooded sweatshirt and says a prayer and calls on the muse to come to him. He has this whole ritual that he goes through. But whenever he writes and he's done, he doesn't care how many words he's written. He doesn't care whether it's good or bad writing. All he knows is he put in the work, like the hunter who went out, and he describes this I think it's in the book. It might have just been in the interview. So in my mind, they kind of intermingle, but I'm pretty sure it's in the book where he talks about how back in the day, the hunter, he gets up and he goes out and he finds the rabbit and he finds the kill and he brings it home. And he's got the anxiety the night before, knowing he's got to go out and gather and bring the food back to the cave, and then he can rest easy that he's fed his family for one more day. And that's what it's like whenever you have to write. You have to get up and you have to fight the resistance and feed on that anxiety and go out and slay and kill and do it one day at a time. And there was just something freeing about hearing that. And he's just a great author. I mean, his style is very direct. It's non pompous or haughty at all, which is kind of cool because his writings a lot of times, not the Legend of Bagger Vance, obviously, but are set in like Roman, ancient Rome and that sort of thing. So you would think he could easily fall into like this kind of haughty delivery or whatever, but it's not that at all. It's just a great, great book. So anyone that's out there that you're thinking about writing, acting, starting a business, the war of art, because it is a war. Jerry Seinfeld, he was talking on the Tim Ferriss show about how writing is just in his mind, writing is the hardest freaking thing in the world that he's ever done, that he ever does, because you're having to just create something out of thin air that will resonate with enough people to make it successful. I mean, so it's just you're conjuring up people and stories that aren't there, and it is hard. It's challenging. It's never easy. And so, if you're that person that wants to do that and you're thinking about it, The War of Art. I cannot more highly recommend this book. Again, I listened to it on Audible, but I'm definitely going to get the hard copy just so that I have it as a reference. And just sometimes it's, I can tell you right now, Steven Pressfield is going to be one of my virtual mentors. I have plenty. These are people that I'll probably never meet as long as I live, but at least I can go to their writings. And here's the thing, too, I want to talk about real quick about virtual mentors and biographies and the books that we read and that hopefully I share with you, and maybe through comments or sometime you'll reach me and we'll kind of trade notes on books. Is that, you know, with a book, a lot of times you get the absolute best of what someone has to offer. So really, if you were to sit down and interview them, there's not a lot better that they could come up with than what they've chosen as their greatest stories, in the form of a fictional account that they've written, or go listen to them on a podcast, or go read something like Pressfield, somebody who's a successful author that then kind of writes this book, this how-to book on here's how you create. And it's not, again, it's not technique. Consider this by Chuck Palahniuk. I always pronounce his last name wrong. Forgive me. The author of Fight Club and Choke and Stranger Than Fiction. Just awesome writer. I love his writing, even if I can't pronounce his last name correctly. Uh, Consider this is a phenomenal book on actual technique, building stories, phrasing. It is awesome. This is not that book. This is not a book to tell you how to write or good techniques or about Hemingway writing at I think it was like a fourth grade level, and how F. Scott Fitzgerald used to use his phrasing and all that. That's not what this is. This is just about kind of the mindset that the artist, the creator, has to take on. It's a good kick in the ass for anybody that wants to do this. And so anyway, highly recommend it. And one of the things too I got to throw in here that it reminded me of is if you're trying to be a writer, and I'm kind of speaking to myself on this one. This is a phrase that Pressfield he puts, and it's an idea that he pushed. He didn't say it directly, but Seth Godin once said to people that they say they have writer's block. Seth Godin famously said there is no such thing as writer's block. He said show before you tell me you're having trouble writing, show me your bad writing. Show me what you've written that's so bad. And and the point being, sit down and loosen your fingers or pen if you write by longhand, whatever the case may be. Just sit down and start going, exercising the muscle, and it is amazing what will happen. And so this book reminded me of it reiterated what Seth Godin had said, that sit down, write some crap. It doesn't matter. Just put in the reps. It's putting in the reps. That's what it is, no matter what it is. If it's starting a new business, what steps have you taken each and every day to get closer to opening that business that you've been dreaming of or thinking about, no matter how long it's been? What are you doing? So with that, that's my quick review and high recommendation of The War of Art by Steven Pressfield. Pick it up. You'll be glad you did. And stay tuned. Tomorrow, I will have knocked out Boys in the Boat. Of course, if you're listening to this 3 months from now, I guess tomorrow doesn't mean anything. But either way, Boys in the Boat will be my next review. Awesome book. It is. I love this book. Today is Sunday, the 13th of March, 2021. I'm going to finish it either today or tomorrow, and I'll be back here with a review. Listen to the review, please, if you haven't read the book, and if it doesn't inspire you to go grab it, then I suck. So, but I think you'll tell. I think after you hear the review, or maybe just from this, you'll know. Great book. Go grab it. So, with that, thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Check out the Vitruvianproject.com, jasonrightnow.com, and go to the Facebook group, the Vitruvian Project. Please join and subscribe to the newsletter, the Vitruvian Letter. This is just my little documentation of things that I'm doing to improve always in all ways, which is what this is about, which is reading. It's push-ups for your brain, 52 books at a minimum in 1 year. That's what I'm doing. I'm coming on here to talk about the books. It helps me remember what I learned from the books. It inspires me it holds me accountable, because I know every week that I've started this, I doubt you're sitting there waiting with bated breath for me to come on here and give you a review, but it creates something that I'm responsible for, the book review every week, to sit down and put it out here. And so please join in the Vitruvian Project and be a part of the community, and help me and all the others that are involved in it improve always in all ways. With that, thank you. Go crush your day. I really appreciate you checking out this review. Thanks.